Hello and welcome to another FMC figure review. We're going to be doing a series of these. They're all from Strike Witches Season 1. They're made by FuRyu and they're part of the Strike Witches high quality figure series. They all cost around $30 with one exception, and the price has been dropping recently and it's expected probably to go down. But when the movie comes out, which will come out pretty soon, it might jump up again as the popularity of the series it gets another boost. So just keep that in mind. The first one I got here is Mio Sakamoto from Strike Witches, Season 1. She's a Japanese Navy pilot, striker commander. These are called striker units. They're basically, they put on these legs that look like airplane propellers and with little wings and whatnot. And basically they use magic, because they're witches or whatever, and that basically powers these devices that allow them to zip around and shoot stuff and blow things up. I really like the character design and the concept in this show. All the striker units and all the weapons are based off of real-life stuff. For example, this is a Japanese Zero. This is a Type 99 20mm anti-aircraft cannon. Not something you would probably carry around like she's doing, but it's all based off of real world stuff, and I think that kind of adds a little bit to the look of Strike Witches, and it's very interesting to me as somebody who's a history buff. As I said before, this is Mio Sakamoto. She's a Japanese Navy officer. She's got the white naval coat. She has an eye patch because she's got this magic eye thing going on. Just watch the show. I'm not going to explain that. And she also has a striker unit, as do all the characters in the show who are the witches who fly around. First thing I'll show you is that the character does in fact remove from this stand. She pops off here. This little hook is holding the striker unit, basically her left leg, in place. And as you can see, that just hooks onto her. So it can freestand if you were to want to do that for some weird reason. Obviously, I don't recommend that because then you got to have it leaning against something. The propeller spin, that's not that important, but it kind of, I don't know, it's a little fun feature. She doesn't move at all. There's no other points of articulation. But she can drop this weapon. I won't take it all her, but you can take the weapons off, and you can switch them around if you really wanted to with the other characters, and her sword is free-floating. The sword has a sheath in the back, which looks awesome, because it's the purple and gold from the show. Westchester represent. But the sword will not go into the sheath. It doesn't work like that. Which is okay, because I don't think anything else... this isn't a trigger hand, so it couldn't hold another weapon anyway. It's got to be the sword, so... Something that's really cool about this figure is the stand is very minimal. It's just a single, basically, clear pipe up to a hook. The figure's actually wider than the stand is. There's a lot of other figures where the stand is like the width of the figure. It's not that unstable either. You'd think that it having the sword sticking out and the fact she's leaning back, that it would be very prone to falling over, but it's not. This is actually one of the best features of this series, that the stands tend to be pretty small and they tend to be very stable. The figure's one solid piece. It doesn't feel flimsy. I wouldn't test it. I had damage to another figure you'll see in the future because of various reasons. How weldy. But basically, it's pretty, it's got some play to it. And the arm is not bendy or anything. It's pretty solid. So don't sit on it, obviously, but it's not going to break on you, which is pretty nice. There's one seam I can see, and that's on top of the head, and it's barely visible. I mean, you wouldn't even know it was there unless you knew to look for it. And that's awesome, because then you don't get these big lines or big shoulder gaps or anything like that. It's definitely one of the better constructed figures I've had. Something to take note is that the accessories are prone to bending, particularly these rifles. The 20mm cannon, as you can see here, it's kind of got this kind of lower bend. I've been kind of gradually bending that back, but you want to kind of be careful because it is PVC and, it can snap. Don't lean it against something. You will cause the weapon to bend. This is pretty much universal for every PVC thing in this series, all the weapons. Don't lean them. The sword actually has gotten straighter over time. It came out of the package bent, and I think it just had to do with the way it was shipped. But it's pretty straight now, because I've kind of messed with it a little bit. I didn't do anything fancy, like running under hot water. You can if you really want to try fixing something that's messed up. But you don't necessarily have to, because they are pretty sturdy. Another thing that makes the Strike Witch's design unique, or I should say a signature of them, is not only these funky striker units that look like airplanes, but also they have a familiar, which all witches have in this universe. And in her case, it's a Doberman. You get these little ears. Hers are black, because she's a black Doberman dog, apparently. And those in the show, they pop up when they go into witch mode, which is when they're flying around, so it's a common thing. Another thing I should also note is that the character doesn't remove from the striker unit. It's not like a Figma figure or an action figure where you can like replace the legs and have her just stand there. It doesn't. You're pretty much stuck with the striker unit, so you're not going to have her standing on the ground. She's going to be wearing this, and you're going to need to stand. The detailing on the figure itself is very good. The Zero itself, you can see there's a lot of fine detailing. It pretty much resembles the nose of a Zero with a lot of the features. Definitely in the spirit of the original aircraft. The sheath is gold tipped. The sword has very intricate wrappings on it, and with the gold and purple. Her eye patch is the right color. Her hair is banged across the top here, and it loops over. It hangs over the her forehead, and that looks good. That looks exactly like it does from the show. The Japanese naval officer coat. The only thing I would say is that white is a very difficult color to keep clean. As you can tell, I've kind of struggled with that. I've tried dusting it and kind of washing it, but it's tough to get right. For that reason, you get kind of some of the seams that are supposed to be in there in the coat. You kind of get this kind of roughness with the paint. It's not ideal, but it does still look really sharp. Plus, it's all wrinkled because she's supposed to be like flying, so it works. Even from the back, you can see there's a lot of really fine details. Shoulder, the hair looks great. Eye patch, they've got the little thing that's holding her hair together. It's pretty much a 360-degree figure, although you probably want to display it facing forward. Another thing funny I want to point out is that Sakamoto, as well as Mio Fuji, the other Japanese character from this show, they are wearing like a spandex nylon school swimsuit from Japan, yet it's supposed to be the 1940s, and that wasn't introduced until the 50s. I don't know. Little bit technology gap, but that's what they chose to do. As for if this figure accurately represents Sakamoto, it definitely does. She's charging, she's leaning back, she's being commanding, which is very much present in her character. Vincent-Davis did a great job of voicing her. She's very authoritative and kind of fun. She's also, I guess, more mature than a lot of the other characters. She's not very girlish, but this definitely captures the gist of the character. Basically, sword out, rifle in the other hand, going into battle, very commanding pose. I like it. As for the overall value of this figure, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for a figure that's especially now under $30. Definitely awesome value. It's very big. It may be 1/8 scale, but you got to remember they've got these gigantic striker units on, and they're kind of also floating off the ground a little bit. So it's pretty tall. You get a lot of figure for your buck. Definitely recommend it. That concludes another FMC figure overview. Come back next time. We're going to have more Strike Witches.
That's the way.
Strike Witches.